a Senate committee report released just hours ago reveals major security failures by the Secret Service before the assassination attempt on President Trump at a rally 1 year ago today. It happened at that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The committee was led by the Republicans and found agents were warned 45 minutes before the attack about suspicious behavior, but did not act or share the important information. The report says that these were a series of avoidable mistakes that almost cost the president his life. 1 year later, frustration continues over the agency's response and the lack of accountability. With me now is Derek Meyer, former deputy special agent in charge for the Secret Service's Chicago field office. Good to have you with me. And we're just getting kind of through this new report from the Senate committee. But a year on, an event that almost cost the president his life, that had so many communication failures. Is the Secret Service of today, of 2025, substantially better than it was a year ago when this happened?
Well, the Secret Service continues to improve every day. So just like any other law enforcement agency, the Secret Service continues to get better. So yes, I can say the Secret Service is better.
So the communication failures ahead of Butler about an Iranian threat, also the potential for a long-range threat, meaning a sniper. There were some in the Pittsburgh office who weren't aware of one, but they knew about the other. Have those been addressed? And if so, how?
Yes, the communication issues have been addressed. Obviously, there was a congressional report. There was also the Secret Service did their own mission assurance report. And from those reports, from those findings, the Secret Service is improving, and communications is one thing they will improve on.
Yeah. CNN's reporting is that there is this deep sense of frustration, and this is based on interviews with a dozen members of law enforcement, also lawmakers, about accountability. And that even the top-ranking agent who was there at Butler, he's been promoted, and there's this delay of accountability. And so what is your thought on the accountability for the mishaps, for the delays, for the lack of communication a year on?
Well, after spending 25 years in the federal government, I can tell you that disciplinary actions do take a long time. I know it's been a year, and I know obviously the reportings that 6 agents were suspended, so there was due diligence there. But just like any other federal agency, the Secret Service has high standards for its employees, and there is due process, and it typically does take a lot of time to conduct an investigation on any type of federal employee.
Yeah, and I think people understand that it takes some time. There was some immediate accountability in the days after this. The Secret Service director who was serving during the Biden administration, she was out. It didn't take very long. But for Shawn Curran, who, as I said, led the detail that day, for people who don't know the inner workings of the Secret Service, how is it possible, with what we know about the failures of the day, that he was promoted to director?
Well, I can tell you this. I mean, Shawn is an American hero. I mean, bullets were flying at him and his team, and they immediately sprung into action and saved the president's life. I think there is definitely trust there between the current administration and Shawn Curran, and the president gets to pick who he wants to be the director of the Secret Service, and Shawn was his pick, and Shawn is doing a great job.
Talk to me about staffing, because as we focused in on not just the first, but the second assassination attempt as well, the concern was the staffing crisis, that there was this lack of an adequate number of agents. How has that been addressed in the last year?
So I think everybody in law enforcement was struggling with numbers, post George Floyd. I think the good news is that the Secret Service applications are up almost over 200%. Secret Service has 30,000 applications since the first of the year. I think you're seeing a great effort by the Secret Service. The Michael Bay commercial at the Super Bowl was wonderful. And the Secret Service is really putting a lot of time and effort into recruitment. and you will see that. So I do definitely think there will be an influx of human talent to help out the Secret Service.
Yeah, that Michael Bay commercial, although it was cinematically wonderful, there were some who were really taken aback that there was $2 million invested in a commercial for the Secret Service, but we'll leave that there. Culture change. There are members of Congress who say that to make this better and to eliminate some of these shortcomings, there needs to be a culture change. Is there a culture change happening under this new director and in the wake of these two attempts?
I think, there needs to be confidence in every Secret Service agent. So as far as a culture change, everybody has their opinion. I do not believe that the Secret Service needs an overall culture change. The Secret Service is one of the best law enforcement agencies in the world, if not the best. So as far as a culture change, I think everybody can have a difference of opinion on that.
All right, Derek Meyer, I appreciate your expertise. Thanks so much for being with me this Sunday morning.
Our sniper, within less than 5 seconds, was able to get him from a long distance with one shot. If he didn't do that, you would have had an even worse situation.
That was President Trump in a new interview last night, reflecting on the moment he was nearly assassinated at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, exactly 1 year ago today. The shooting is detailed in a brand new book called 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America. One passage says when Trump was in the hospital, he kept, quote, kept talking about the shooting. He couldn't believe it. He seemed to want to relive it over and over. The doctor was told him he was so lucky they should go buy a lottery ticket. I'm joined again by one of the authors of that book, Isaac Arnsdorf, of course, along with CNN's Elena Train. Both of you were there exactly a year ago covering that rally. And Isaac, this is your new book. Congratulations on the book. And you have a new piece out today about how the Trump shooting supercharged beliefs in a divine right of MAGA. What have you learned through all of your reporting and this new reporting about how this impacted Trump?
Yeah, so personally, it changed the way that he talked spiritually. He kept, in the day after the shooting, he kept saying, I'm not supposed to be here. Like he couldn't believe that he was alive. And people were suggesting to him that was God. And after that, he started saying, if anyone ever doubted there was a God, not saying that was me, but if anyone ever doubted there was a God, that proved that there was. And so there's a direct line from his experience there to what he said in his inauguration speech, I was saved by God to make America great again. And for many of his supporters who do believe in God, they always talked about God being on the side of their movement, but this went further than that in terms of seeing this as an act of actually divine intervention, of Trump becoming an instrument of God's will.
And you have some reporting, too, about reflecting on the year. You were there, of course, as well, how it changed the 2024 race. What did you learn about from your reporting when you were there and in the aftermath, how it impacted the campaign?
Well, I actually just spoke for this story with a White House official this week who was also serving on the president's 2024 campaign, now in the White House with Donald Trump, who said it became so much more personal. And it's similar. I heard the same things. I mean, and it's true. Even today, Trump still believes that God had a role in this. But for his campaign team itself, they said it became so much more personal. He was this this official told me essentially, if they were going to try to do this to Donald Trump, we were going to have to go that much harder in making sure that we won the election. He essentially said that it was much bigger than the election at that point. And one thing that still strikes me a year after, after everything that had happened on July 13th last year, is that image of Trump. I mean, it's still, everyone knows what we're talking about. His hand is in the air, he has blood on his face, his clothing is rumpled, Secret Service is surrounding him. It became such a powerful image. They still use it today. It's hung in the East and West wings of the White House. That fight, fight, fight slogan has really taken over the MAGA movement. He still uses it and shares it at different private campaign events. When he had that crypto dinner, it was very prominently put everywhere. And it's now a symbol of the strength of the MAGA movement and the president himself. And it's something Trump still continues to talk about. I mean, it's funny. I look back on that speech he gave at the Republican National Convention. Just days later, he was wearing that bandage on his ear, and he said, I'm only going to get into detail about what had happened in Butler tonight during the speech, and then I'm never going to talk about it again.
So much for that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a story he continually talks about behind closed doors.
And publicly.
Of course. I mean, look, last week he was in Iowa the night before the 4th, I remember he like paused during his speech because fireworks were going off in the distance. And he was like, I don't like that sound either. I think it's just fireworks. And like, kind of talked about it lightheartedly. But it really has become something that completely strengthened in the weeks after Butler, of course, and the months up to the election, but even after, has really strengthened this idea that people believe that he is the person we need to coalesce behind. And he is, as you said, like divine intervention was at play.
It's not always so lighthearted, though. I mean, we have some reporting in the book that during the transition, he had a meeting at Mar-a-Lago with J.D. Vance and Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and said, the three of us shouldn't be in a room together. So, he is thinking about his mortality and the danger, and that really redefined how they were operating the last few months of the campaign, and I think it sticks with Trump today.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing that. They'll have more to discuss.